Yo, did I ever tell you that I love you, man? Like, you're like the coolest. Yo, do you want to get high? Yeah? Alright, let's do this. Like my mind is melting into 1,000 tiny robots, all dripping on glitter and covered in ecstasy. Wait, what? No, it's just Robotron 64. Whoa! Robotron. It's a game that helped influence Twitch-style gameplay as we know it today. Using the classic arcade game Berserk as its blueprints, Robotron 2084 stormed into arcades back in 1982, making players all over the world feel the rise in tension as they controlled a little man who would take on the Robotrons, a master race of evil robots who have eliminated almost the entire population on Earth. The developers of the original game, Eugene Jarvis and Larry DeMar, had previously worked on Defender together, so they brainstormed the idea for Robotron 2084. Though Berserk was the foundation, Robotron 2084 brought things to the, no pun intended, next level. By using 2 joysticks instead of 1, the controls brought even more attention than ever to strict hand-eye coordination, allowing one to move and shoot in different directions at the same time. This was a unique design courtesy of Jarvis being injured in an automobile accident. Now, you wouldn't think that that'd be a positive thing, but because of the injuries from the accident, it made him think about one of his favorite video games, Berserk. See, Berserk required 2 hands because attacking enemies was limited to a single button. However, Jarvis designed Robotron 2084 so he can play with 2 hands while injured instead of trying to mash a button. Robotron was like the hugest hit in the arcades, and there was an unofficial sequel called Blaster that came out. Came out like the following year or something. I don't know, dude, I'm so messed up right now, like. But then the video game crash of 1983 hit, and it like halted all plans for like future Robotron sequels. Oh, until the PlayStation era arrived. With video games back in full force, a proper sequel was developed by a small-time company called Player One Games. It started out on the Sony PlayStation called Robotron X. With a familiar feel and style to the original Robotron 2084, this game would later be ported to the Nintendo 64 with updated graphics, music, and camera options with a new title, Robotron 64. There are like dozens of Atari games that got reimagined for a new generation, and it kind of was trying to get the old gamers to play too, man. Like, you get it. Just play. Robotron's move from arcade to the Sony PlayStation and finally the Nintendo 64 saw an evolution in many ways. Robotron 64 has several levels of difficulty, and while I can appreciate extreme difficulty, insane mode is simply too insane, with rumors suggesting not even the developers can complete it. Playing on the opposite difficulty spectrum, easy mode is 100 levels, and pulls a contra by telling you to go play the real game on normal. Normal mode, an intimidating 200 levels, seems like a lot, but the game is designed for short bursts of gameplay for long extended periods of time. I sat down with the game for maybe a half an hour and got to level 40, and it didn't even feel like half an hour had passed. It brings us back to the days of old where CD arcades lacked windows and you'd feel like you were playing for minutes when in reality hours had gone by. Because of the short bursts of levels, the game runs fast and requires an insane amount of attention to the screen. You can even change the speed of the game in the settings, and while the frame rate usually holds up, The floor tiles are colored in this version, making some of the Robotrons bleed into the path that you traverse. In Robotron X, levels are more traditional wireframes with black backgrounds, allowing enemies to pop out more. This causes enemy projectile attacks to require more focus to avoid. Does it bring a greater challenge to the game? Yes, but I'd say that their efforts could have been better spent on increasing the size of the enemies and the family members that you have to save, rather than wasting it on the tiles. That's right, the game has family members to save. Mom, Dad, little Mikey, and Grandpa.
Oh, look at the little guy, little Mikey. He's so cute. I'm gonna save him.
Yes, this family is the last of its kind. Well, sorta. The object of the game is to save the family members from the Robotrons. However, don't try to save all of them, as it's impossible. These giant unkillable Robotrons called Hulks are only able to be pushed away with the force of your pulse laser weapon, your primary means of attack in this game. The rest of the enemies are mostly pushovers. The Grunts, also known as the Ground Roving Unit Network Terminators, see what I did there, are one-hit kills and make up most of the enemies you'll face off against. Later on in the game, you'll see a variety of enemies, such as the Enforcers, little pod-type enemies that try to distract you from attacking the Grunts, and Brains, which look like little scientists with ginormous brains that shoot brainwaves at you, and they can also convert the family members into attackable enemies.
Talk about, like, Stockholm Syndrome, huh? Yeah.
While this port has several enhancements, the one that was looked down upon was the option to change the camera. Robotron has been known for its fixed camera, allowing for players to see every aspect of each board. While I tend to agree that these types of games require the ability to see the full board to succeed, the smart camera option was the one I preferred and would recommend. The fixed camera was just too far away to really showcase the colors and difference between enemies. The rest of the camera options, particularly third-person mode, are awful and do a disservice to this game. Get ready to put those raving outfits on, because Robotron 64 has one of the best and most unknown soundtracks on the Nintendo 64. The music has been overhauled and enhanced from its PlayStation cousin, with thicker, fatter bass tones and a speedier approach. You want to play this game fast and hard thanks to these drum and bass infused techno tracks.
Yo, I couldn't find who composed these tracks, but I just want to say, if you're watching this, thank you, man. Thank you. You're the best. Do you want tacos?
Controls are fluid and work well, with the C buttons allowing you to fire in the 4 different directions and the analog allowing movement.
Oh man, dude, I'm so high from this game right now. I bet I could play with 2 controllers.
Yes, there's even a way to play with a friend, where they control the shooting and you control the movement. Or you could just play by yourself and emulate what it was like in the arcades.
Oh, I'm gonna be sick. Robotron 64 is a great, improved port of the original game Robotron X. And it's a great remake of a classic arcade shooter. It has a formula that works to this day. And then the camera options, I may feel they're unnecessary, but I feel the improved music kind of makes up for the wonky textures. Despite coming to the Nintendo 64 2 years after its original release, it was worth the wait. Dance time! Cheese is the most important part of tacos. Freaking cheese.